It's been many years since I was last at ArtCaffe, and since its humble beginnings being in the most expensive mall in the most expensive Todot town in the most expensive area, we could safely assume that it wasn't going to close any time soon. Oops, I guess we didn't calculate everything there. With the terrorist attack and the hell that broke loose, most people like myself have been a bit shy about returning to the mall, thinking that maybe lightning might strike twice. So returning to ArtCaffe was a bit like the postman walking into the yard where the dog has already mauled off one of his legs. Limping through the security checks, I have to say I did feel somewhat comforted and put out by the whole endeavour. After the rubber club treatment, I made my way through the sterile halls of the Westgate shopping mall. I was surprised that they had rebuilt it almost exactly the same. It's probably the biggest middle finger to give to terrorists, the Chumbawamba approach to handling terrorism. To keep impartiality in my reviews, I will take the first recommendations from my waiter, to which apparently I'd like a quinoa salad, a burger, followed by a chocolate mousse. With my order in place, I sat back and waited for my coffee, and looked at the main road and smoked from the cars in a bad need of an oil change, and decided to have a cigarette. I was very promptly informed I wasn't allowed to smoke due to a change of policy. I was now expected to stand far off in the corner with 50 other filthy smokers like myself. If the reason you're not allowing smoking is that the smoke will annoy other people, don't fucking build your restaurant on a main road. It's a bit like being told you cannot eat meat in a restaurant because some of our vegan customers might get annoyed and the restaurant is built on top of a slaughterhouse. Clearly the management has been taking a heavy dose of their corporate-required crazy pills. Having said that, since ArtCaffe is owned by Israelis, I should be a bit careful about what I say. You know how those guys are, they're fucking lunatics against people who don't agree with them. Finally, after coming back from the back of beyond to find that my coffee had gone cold and my salad had gone warm, I got stuck in. After chewing for about a minute, I realised the dish was missing taste. I like to think I've got a good palate despite smoking enough cigarettes to suggest that a major part of Nairobi is on fire. This thing wasn't bad, it just wasn't anything. It was like ordering a parcel from Amazon, opening up the package to find a small note saying, "Sorry, it wasn't in stock, but please have some store credit, which you can only spend with us," which was another kick in the bollocks. I munched away through a few more mouthfuls, but still finding no flavour, I checked the menu again to make sure I hadn't accidentally ordered a cardboard salad instead. I discovered that the dried cranberries and olives that were supposed to be in the salad had been left out. Bringing this to the attention of my waitress, she started to argue with me. Obviously, the part of her training that said the customer is always right had been left out of her induction. Mind you, the service was so poor I get the feeling that just anyone who could walk and talk was pulled into service, and doing both at the same time was kept as optional. Finally, I had to slap the menu in her face repeatedly until she saw the veracity of my claims. She then promptly told me that the dried cranberries weren't available. If that was the case, why the fuck did you recommend this to me? If I ordered bangers and mash, and when it arrived I was just given a plate of mashed potatoes, I wouldn't fucking accept that. But you expect me to pay full price for something when you aren't even making the whole dish. So I left with a bitter, I mean no taste in my mouth. I returned the salad and waited for my main course. And waited, and waited, and waited. After about an hour I raised the point with the brain-dead zombie supposed to be my waitress, who seemed to be taking the piss, and was obviously holding my order long enough for bile and spit to be hocked into my burger, enough to fill a small reservoir. I was pleasantly surprised that my burger arrived without the taste of dog turd I was expecting. After inspecting my burger, I discovered that the cheese, and probably more importantly the beef, had been omitted. The beef was replaced in favour of chicken, which they had admirably managed to cook rare. Maybe this was the reason for the blandness and why my stomach was feeling a bit iffy. One 30-minute argument later, my burger arrived back with a fresh gob of spit and a wedge of hardened cheese. I also must have understood that the idea of a hot pass to ArtCaffe is as alien as a bicycle would be to a fish. Now, the burger was not bad, in the sense that only getting herpes is not bad from a prostitute with a liberal condom policy. It could have been so much better just by understanding the needs of taste, filling, and flavour. I might need to take the chefs aside and explain the difference between rare and raw, but for that I'm not complaining. I'm not even complaining because the burger was bland. After my salad, this was literally an explosion of flavour. If by explosion I mean the last dribble of piss leaking out of a flaccid cock after a 20-pint binge. But I was tempted to complain again. Looking around and trying to get a waiter or waitress's attention, which despite there being 40 staff to only 5 tables, seemed more difficult than trying to get an orgy reunion gig going with the Spice Girls. I really wanted to try to love this place, the plucky upstart who in defiance of international terrorism was trying again, but they were making it so difficult. In order to get through the rest of this experience I was going to need something stronger than coffee. Probably crack, but that didn't seem to be on the menu. Not that that was a problem, because every drink I ordered from the menu wasn't available either. If you're going to make your menu as wide as donkey porn actresses' legs, at least fill it with something, otherwise you're left feeling like you're chucking a sausage down Union Avenue. Let me be fair, up to this point the food had not been bad, just simply bland. In the same way a meth addict isn't bad, he's just into his own thing. I had the feelings that the chefs have an aversion to flavour. Or some of the food was bad. The chips were as soggy as your mum's pants after the Latino pool cleaner decided that the thongs were the best idea to clean the pool, and your dad had been away for a couple of days. After adding a small mountain of salt to them, I felt they could merely be considered bad. At this point, I'm struggling to find a single enjoyable factor about this visit. The best thing I can say is that I wasn't being gang raped by the security guards on the way to the restaurant. Well, it's unfair to say I'd refuse to pay for this experience. There are people in the world who'd be quite happy to pay to have a 90-year-old prostitute dressed as a schoolteacher invade their rectum with a 10-inch dildo, and then call them a naughty boy, but simply put, that's not my cup of tea, China. I have been told that the service is worse if you're not white, which seems a bit of a stretch. I mean, I don't know how much worse it could have been, unless the waitress dropped trowel and parked a tightly coiled turd on my lap before charging me 3,000 shillings for the experience. So I'll say this one positive thing about ArtCaffe. Do not shun it because they treat African customers badly. Shun it because they're shit. They aren't being racist, they're just awful at service. In the same way, you cannot blame a retard for shitting in your garden. You cannot blame ArtCaffe for being racist, they're just that bad. Oh, and the chocolate mousse never arrived, by the way. By that point, I'd had enough, paid and left. Oh, I should point out, one of my self-imposed rules is that I need to pay for my meal, if only so I can justify my hatred towards the place afterwards. So in short, I'll say this. All in all, do not go there unless you are really the type of German grumble aficionado that likes being shat on from high places and expected to pay a lot for the experience. You can't stop looking at me, staring at me, be what I please, you can't